I'm going to call to order the Town of Old Saybrook Zoning Commission special meeting agenda, hybrid meeting for Monday, November 25th, 2024 at 4:30, Town Hall, second floor conference room in Old Saybrook. Call to order and roll call is myself, Mark Caldarella, Vice Chair Jerry Lewis, Secretary John Henry. On Zoom is regular commission members, Robert Friedman, Laura Gray is here in the room, and alternate members attending this night, Brenda Dyson on Zoom and Michael Kelly in person. New business. A, request for review and approval of small construction, erosion, and sediment control measures at the Old Saybrook High School wastewater management pilot test site, 1111 Boston Post Road, map 28, lot 14, Residence A zoning district, owner, Town of Old Saybrook, agent Kurt Mailman, PE, Fuss and O'Neill. Mr. Mailman.
Thank you. I apologize for holding you up.
No problem.
Things quick. So I wanted to share with you a project that the city is working on for their commission, and have a discussion about why we're here. A little background for those of you who aren't familiar.
Need to share your screen.
Oh, that was you. In the meantime, so this is the very beginning of hopefully the culmination of 40 years of the WPCA, their project that they've been working on. So started with Barbara Maynard, actually, right? Chris, you know that. And it's come a long way, you know, through the proposed sewer plant on the river to then everything being on site and, you know, looking for locations. And so we're before you tonight because we think we have the concept of a plan, which we're not really here to talk about the entire plan, but we are here to talk about a test that might lead to implementation of a larger plan. But go ahead, Kurt.
Yeah, so there were 1,900 homes that were identified in 2009 as needing upgrades. About 1,100 of them were done on site. Now we're in the point where the more difficult lots need a solution. And so we're evaluating through a pilot test that's being administered through funding from the Connecticut DEP some availability to disperse clean water as a test at one of the ball fields at the high school site.
The northwest corner.
So this is just a diagram that shows you effectively Donnelly roads down here, Boston Post roads going east, west, and on the south, and here's your high school. My mouse isn't really cooperating, but there's a football field to the right. And what we want to do is test the area here. The purple lines that you see on the field are irrigation pipes. And this is the concept that we're trying to develop and test in the spring of next year. Okay. This area here with the rectangle sort of goes in between where the irrigation pipes are. We originally didn't think that we needed to permit this site for construction activities, stormwater and wastewater, because it was less than 1 acre. So it didn't meet the 1 acre threshold. However, now that and also the original design was to plow in and not disturb very much of the soil. Okay, these are the drip tubes that I'm talking about. There's a little emitter in here, and they crisscross, little squiggly lines crisscross back and forth. And the water essentially goes through the pipe and then drips out over time. And they're very shallow, like 6 to 12 inches. originally we weren't going to excavate, but we found that the soils, there was a layer of soil that was somewhat restrictive. And so in order to ensure that we have a positive test, we're now going to take out some soil and replace it with C33 sand, very permeable sand materials. Okay. And the reason why we're before you today is because in order to try to save some money, the contractor subbidded what we call the strip and fill, which is like what you would do for a septic system, but on a grander scale here in this area, which is about 160 by 230 feet. Okay. The contractor would like to try to save money on the project. He'd like to stockpile the topsoil that's removed in this vicinity right here, and then screen and reuse it. So there'll be a savings to the WPCA, but what it also did was kick the project over the 1 acre threshold at which it's subject to that permit, okay? Now the reason why we're before you specifically is because there's a caveat for very small construction projects between 1 and 5 acres of disturbance that if you're confident that we're going to abide by the erosion and sediment control regs, 22A-359, what is it? You can probably tell me better, but 329, then you can write a letter effectively, and that would save the town some money. And so that's really what we want to do. If we go back and delay the project, then the contractor will probably not be super pleased with the delay, but that's okay. Like that would be all right. But what we're really trying to do is save the town some money, save the WPCA some money here, because they would have to haul all that soil out, screen it somewhere else, haul it back, and then apply it. It's a lot cheaper, and they want to get this thing done before Christmas, believe it or not. So it's important.
So
that,
done before Christmas,
done.
it sits over the winter, it's gonna be a mess over the winter, but it's gonna be resodded in the spring, graduation will happen. And so that is the plan. It's gonna be a mess over the winter, but then we move forward.
And so this project is being done, administered through DE. We do have a set of bid documents, okay, that show erosion and sediment control measures. Our company actually was contributed for it to the regulations, to those, wrote the manual effectively for erosion and sediment control, so we're very familiar with it. Our inspectors are going to be out there during all the operations to make sure that they adhere to those regulations. Obviously, things like if you have 1 inch of rainfall, you got to go out and check all your measures. So there isn't a lot here in terms of the activities. This is a blow up of the disturbance area. We call that zone A.
So there are 4 zones. All told, we may not need 4 zones, even for the ultimate project. We're actually hoping we might need 1 or 2 at the most, this being one of them. So it's half of that backfield, and then the other half possibly at a later date.
So this area here.
And one more thing on this, what that field on a good day is wet, and that's what we've been told, that the athletes, when they're out there a week after it rains, are still slushing around. The good news is when we're done, either just with half the field or even the entire field, they're going to have a much better playing field. And one of the other benefits is the Goodwin School is going to get 100 cubic yards of dirt because they requested it to fix their playground area on the left as you come in that field. So we're hopefully going to make 2 better playing fields simply from this test. That's just not relevant to your discussion tonight, but just a side note.
So in terms of the erosion and sediment control features, we've got, silt sacks around the catch basins here, wattles around the disturbed area. The disturbed area is going to be left with just sand, just the C33 sand over the winter. We can't get sod right now. Ultimately, it will be sodded. It'll have a snow fence around it, and it will have also, the wattles around that as well. And this right here is that topsoil storage area. North is now this way, just to orient you on the sheet. And that area is going to, obviously, that 40 by like 140, 130 is going to sit over the winter as well. So there'll be a pile there, like a windrow almost of soil that will sit until it gets screened and then relayed in the spring. And what else do we have? We've got anti-tracking aprons here. And we kept all of the work out of the regulated area. This is your 100-foot upland review area for the wetlands. And also the pond, if you're familiar with that area, the pond is behind, and we keep all of the activities out of regulated areas. What else do we have that's of import here? We've got a little bit of trenching through the driveway just for the electrical conduits. There's going to be a temporary shed building that's going to house the pumps that are going to pump the clear water, and also a tank here that will sit at grade. It's like a day tank. It'll fill with water, and then that clean water will get pumped out over the tank. So that's really it in a nutshell. Into the tubes and into the soil.
Okay.
So the proofing is we have a number of monitor wells. You see them, these little bullseyes here. I have a number of monitoring wells that we've been evaluating for several years now. And the reason why we have the test, I'm probably getting too much into the nerdy engineering details, but the purpose of the test is to find out how the groundwater behaves under loading of clean water. Thus, if it was loaded with treated wastewater, it would also load the same way. So there's a mound that gets created, and we need to measure it. We've done it theoretically through a model, through a hydro model, ModFlow. I don't know if you're familiar with it at all, but we've already done that, and DEP says that's great, but we'd like to see a pilot actually function. We don't want this thing to fail. Nor does WPCA, nor do we.
So they originally, before we decided to do a strip and fill, we originally had to test two different areas, A and another area, D, which was in left field of, left field of the baseball field. But when we realized that there were some restrictive soils there, Kurt said to me, "Hey, Carl, we can give it a shot, this test, and see if it works with just the way the soils are. Or we can strip and fill one, ask DEP if they'll allow us just to do one area instead of two, because you would be doing the same thing at the other place, so it's gonna act the same." So the decision was basically take a chance on a very expensive test and have it fail with restrictive soils, or basically build a perfect system that's gonna work. I mean, in theory, yes. I mean, build it the way we want for optimal drainage and potentially lessen the disturbed area overall. So,
Commissioner, are you done?
Yes,
with your
I was just gonna
presentation,
say, so the ask here today is if the commission would approve writing a letter that says we're in approval of this concept of a small construction project based on following erosion and sedimentation control measures as presented in these contract documents so that it can get submitted. That's the ask.
Commissioners have any questions?
I just have a question about the high school and students, and what's this mean to them? I mean, these
They're
are
not-
tennis courts?
No, that's a fields.
No.
Field.
Playing fields, yeah.
They're not.
It's right off Donnelly Drive.
No, I understand. I thought there were
No.
some athletic
No.
activity
We're
going
not
on.
near there.
Okay,
So just so you know, we, letters have gone out, of this, for this project to, through the Board of Ed, to their entire contact list. I've done a press release and I've notified all the owners on Donnelly Drive. So we've also been before the Board of Ed several times. So we are, this has been, and Kurt and I have been in, after going to the Board of Ed, in very regular contact with Pam Mastorti and Brendan Saunders, who's the athletic director at the high school, just to make sure that the athletics students are okay and that the school is okay. So that's all been communicated and handled cooperatively with the schools and the Board of Ed.
What were they using that field? Weren't they using that for practice?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Oh, right, okay, so
Yeah.
they're all right. It's,
We've talked to
Supposedly
Brendan
in
about it,
spring
and
they
Brendan's
have
like,
that.
we can make it work.
Well, anecdotally, interestingly enough, there was so much standing water on that field, it really couldn't use it. In fact, they striped the baseball field and had the temporary, had the nets out for soccer on a baseball field instead of that field. And that's part of the reason why.
You do have sediment control around the stockpile,
Yes,
okay?
Yep.
Because I don't think you might have shown that.
this is the sediment control, right here.
Okay.
Runs along
Okay.
the outside.
Okay.
And the stockpile of the topsoil is covered or is not covered?
We didn't think that it would make sense to cover it.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as it's not going to erode out, or, you know, there's obviously, if there's a rainfall event or something of that ilk, there's gonna be people out there pretty much daily anyways.
Yeah.
So if there's any issues, we have inspectors that are gonna be out there to make sure that
And is our ZEO officer involved in that verification process or inspection at any time, or is that not needed?
I don't think it's needed because there's gonna be engineers on site and people monitoring it through the whole
Yeah.
process. So it's not as though a contractor's just gonna be out there on their own. There's high supervision.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Bob or Brenda? Not hearing any?
No, none here.
Okay. Does a commissioner wish to make a motion?
I
Not,
will.
huh?
I will.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, I'll make a motion to, approve the, small construction erosion and sediment control measures at the old Saybrook High School wastewater management pilot test site at 1111 Boston Post Road, map 28, lot 14, Residence A zoning district.
No second.
Seconded by John Henry. Is there any discussion? Not hearing any, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstains, passes 5-0-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.